Welcome everybody to this extraordinary council meeting of Yarra Council. For us, or hear submissions on Budd, Matter and Little Smith Street. The Budd and Matter Street will come to council for a decision to speak at that. This is your chance to speak. The Little Smith Street one will be at a later date. Yarra Council acknowledges Wurundjeri of the land now known as Yarra. We acknowledge their creative spirit Bunjil, their ancestors and their elders. We acknowledge the strength in Wurundjeri Woi Wurrung, who have never ceded sovereignty and retained their strong connections to family, clan and country, despite the impacts of European invasion. Contributions made by other Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to life in Yarra. We pay our respects to elders from all nations here today and to the elders past, present, councillors Aston, Gomez, Ho, Mackenzie, Wade, myself, Councillor Jolly the Mayor. Apologies from Sir Davies. Councillor Wade will have to leave at 7:30, but we'll still have a quorum if the meeting is continuing at that point. Councillors, I'm going to ask each of interest declaration. You may respond, I do, to the following question. Do you declare that you have familiarised yourself with the matters being presented have a conflict of interest? Councillor Aston.
I do. Councillor
Gomez.
I do.
Councillor Ho.
I do.
Councillor Mackenzie.
I do.
Councillor Wade.
I do.
And I do. We'll move on to the business of the meeting. So we're going to start with Budd Street, your item you're here for. Councillors won't be asking any questions. You're not going to be cross-examined on it. It's time to make a submission, not a question. And I'm just going to go in the order that I've been given in terms of the order of registration. So when your name is called, if you can just sort of like come up to the front, press the kick on the microphone, because this has been televised, believe it or not. Millions of people are watching it worldwide, I'm sure. And you'll get 2 minutes each. So the first, McLean. Andrew, if you're here, please come to the front. No. Ashley Ayers. Welcome.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you all for the chance to speak on this today. I've come to express my objection to the closure of Budd Street, and the main concern I have with the proposed discontinuance is equivalent alternative routes for locals to take. So in the council report, the site inspection report that was included in the minutes in December, they described budgets connecting Johnston Street and Alexandra Parade in that area. The two alternatives were Wellington Street and Smith Street, and they're not very equivocal. So 900 people using it per day. Wellington's like 11,000. I think Smith Street's very busy. Budd Street is the safest route. So of the traffic accidents that they identified in the report, none of them happened on Budd Street. They all happened on either Smith or Wellington, and it feels like we're pushing locals to use less safe, more congested by the selection of this. And I guess that's a big, the reason I'm actually objecting is just that there's a very simple solution that the council could consider, which is just putting the park on one of the east to west streets. So there are 5 streets intersecting Budd Street between Johnston Street and Alexandra Parade. And you could put it on any of that. You could literally shift it about 20 metres and do a 90-degree angle shift, and that wouldn't impact traffic. You wouldn't be forcing residents onto other roads, and you wouldn't be shutting down one of 3 access points, like north-south routes for emergency vehicles as well.
Ashley, your time has run out, but do you want to just have his final statement, just quickly?
I guess I just wanted to say, I really do support open spaces. I think it's great. I think that you could actually just shift this slightly and have fewer impacts on local residents and still have the open space that we all want and need.
Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you.
The next person is Beverly Hurley.
Hello, and thank you. Yes, my name is Beverly. I live in Keele Street, Collingwood, and so the Budd Street, Easy Street open space proposal is near to me. I have found the information, or the lack of, to be really, really scant. It's left me feeling like this is actually some sort of covert plan, and it's being drip-fed to the public, wrapped up in some pretext of green space. And I am not opposed to green space. I'm totally for it, as I've got a small dog and I've got to walk a really long way to find any sort of green space for her over fairly busy roads. But the line drawing was hard to decipher. It had so little information and zero context, just a few scant lines. At first I thought it was a redevelopment of the dirty graffitied substation on the corner with the strip of grass. And after going across and asking at the camera shop on the corner, they told me it was for the actual road. What begs the question for me is, why would you want a green space adjacent to this buzzing sort of eyesore that's dirty and fairly unattractive? I can't imagine people are that prone to wanting to sit in such close proximity to an electricity substation. Like, it wouldn't be a draw card for me. I think what I found confusing is why this site, what selection criteria was used to distinguish the road as suitable for closure as opposed to another road, as the speaker before me just said. What greater plan is this road closure part of, if there is a bigger plan? What traffic studies have been done in support of it? Why has so little detail been provided? And wouldn't it have been clearer for the public if there was a design proposal that actually showed what it could possibly look like? Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly. The next person is Hamish McKenzie. Not here. Hannah Marshall. What about Jack Slater? Jack, welcome.
Are we just doing Bud Street?
Just Bud Street, please, yeah.
Okay, hello. My name is Jack, resident of Collingwood. Thank you for having me. I wanted to speak in support of the Bud Street proposal. Primarily the objective here, I believe, is to increase green space in a suburb that has some of the lowest rates of green space in all of Yarra, but also probably the highest level of accessibility to cars in all directions. So I think this is a great proposal. I think we can point to the success of Otter Street and how well used and well maintained that facility is. I think it could be achieved. Some of the negative arguments are about parking restriction and lack of car access. I think parking restriction could easily be addressed through an increased level of permits and enforcement, which is quite low in the area. And it's really only cars that we're losing access to. Pedestrians and cyclists will still have access through the area. So I think Bud Street in particular is an excellent location because it's quite low in terms of residential disturbance. As we've said, it's next to a substation and a commercial building on the adjacent side. So to me, represents a really good opportunity to increase green space. I think you'll find a great deal of the community in general is in majority support of this proposal.
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you.
Ruani Fernando. Samuel Jovanovski. Seb Gwynny. Welcome, Seb.
Yep, my name's Sebastian. I'm a resident of Bud Street and I strongly oppose the proposal to discontinue Bud Street. There are a number of reasons for this. One is the loss of local traffic movability within our streets for those of us that live there. As was mentioned by a previous submission, it is one of the few north-south streets. Further to that, the proposal states that traffic will be moved to Wellington. The council also plans to close Wellington Street. There's also going to be a loss of car parks, so already parking in Bud Street to get a park out the front of my property or in my street is quite difficult and really is something that losing more car parks is not going to help. The location of the park area is, I would say, is poor and it lacks community benefit. The proposed area is joined to a local power station or power substation, is not aesthetically pleasing and will probably result in limited use. You can hear the humming if you stand in the middle of the road quite clearly. There's also ongoing management requirements. Building a park is not just a capital cost and then it's done. There is ongoing maintenance, and we've seen things like Gold Street where that has often fallen away with benches spending months missing parts of them, the hedges not maintained effectively for long periods. I think overall there has also been that the classic safety campaign. However, as mentioned, all 5 of the safety elements are not actually
30
on Bud
seconds.
Street. Yep. I'd also be interested to hear some further details around what the residents' response was. I've done a neighbourhood knock just over this weekend and picked up 27 signatures where people who live in Bud Street or just next to Bud Street have opposed this development. I think there are better places for this to go, such as Wellington Street, which is 27% larger just on its road space, plus the additional space from the Salvation Army property that was purchased.
Thank you. You've time for that. Thank you. I've been told by Councillor Mackenzie that Hamish Mackenzie is in the room. They're not related. Hamish, just doubling back, would you like to just, yeah? No worries. So you've just got 2 minutes starting as soon as you start talking.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Sorry I was late. I live at the intersection of Smith Street and Kerr Street, so 100 metres from the Bud Street site. I would love to see the road closed and a park created here. I take care of a dog about once a month for a weekend. That part of North Collingwood, the northern part of Fitzroy, there's not a lot of green space for dogs. The park that the council has made next to the Fitzroy pool is unbelievable. As someone who uses that 3 or 4 times a week, seeing the impact that that redevelopment has had on that little area is truly amazing, and I think shows what you can do with a well-designed green space on a small parcel of land. I think it's a good model for what we could do in Bud Street and Maida Street as well. I also take care of my young niece and nephew, again, about once a month for a weekend. And again, it's really lovely having some green spaces that I can take them to. The Fitzroy Pool Park is great. The road that was closed on Otter Street, just south of this location, I think is also an exceptional community space. It's used frequently by a huge diversity of people, and I think shows what we could do here on Bud Street and Maida Street. The last point that I'd make is that that particular pocket of North Collingwood is really, really hot in summer. I think there's a huge amount of potential there. There's a couple of cafes close by, but there's just no green space. There's no tree cover. The urban heat island effect there is really, really pronounced. And I think if we can put in some green space there, cool the whole place down, it could be a really beautiful contribution to the area. So very much in favour, and thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thanks, Hamish. The next person is John Yanoulis, speaking on behalf of Thomas Shepherd. Is John here? Yep. Welcome, John.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is John Yanoulis. My family and I have lived in Collingwood for 26 years. We own 3 properties on Wellington Street, near the Maida Street corner. I commend Council's proposal to create new urban open space in Maida and Bud Streets. Increased open space is essential in one of Melbourne's fastest growing and densest residential areas. However, the closure of part of Maida Street will displace approximately 700 vehicle movements per day, while Hotham Street, 100 metres south, is the logical alternative. Many drivers will instead use the narrow existing lane between 396 and 398 Wellington Street as a shortcut. This lane is already functioning as a rat run. 3 dwellings have front doors opening directly onto this lane. Vehicles pass approximately 60 centimetres from those doorways. Residents step directly into live traffic. This presents a foreseeable and preventable safety risk, one that will be significantly amplified once Maida Street is closed. The solution, however, is simple and very low cost. One strategically placed bollard positioned midway along the lane at the easternmost edge of 396 Wellington Street would prevent through traffic while still maintaining alternative access to the neighbouring commercial car park
30 seconds.
Via Charlotte Street and Maida Street. This intervention eliminates the rat run without negatively impacting surrounding businesses. I respectfully ask Council to incorporate the safety measure as part of the Maida Street works. Thank you for your consideration.
Thanks, John. The last speaker on Bud Street is Tyrone Fernando. Okay, that's it for Bud Street. Okay, well, we've got very well spotted, Councillor Mackenzie. You've got a great eye for detail. Andrew James McLean, you're welcome to come to the front. You've got your 2 minutes. You'll be the last speaker on Bud Street. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Sorry to be late. I just got off a plane from Sydney. So am I speaking in regards to all three streets at this moment?
Just Bud Street for this one.
Okay. So my name is Andrew McLean. I live on Oxford Street in Collingwood. I've been in Collingwood for 3 years and plan to stay forever. I regularly walk to Inner Studio, which is the yoga studio I practice, which is just around the corner from the proposed park on Bud Street. And you know, notwithstanding council's amazing efforts to make parklets in, for example, Otter Street, there's no green space between my home and Inner Studio. In fact, there's very little green space whatsoever in Collingwood. I have my parents staying, and my mum remarked, because you can see both Fitzroy and Collingwood from my windows, the stark difference between the colours of the two suburbs. Fitzroy is strikingly green, and Collingwood has very few trees whatsoever. And particularly in this moment where there's a probability that things are going to get hotter, having parklets that serve as urban lungs, I think, is going to be incredibly important to all of us, to our nervous systems, and to the non-human mammals and other animals that share our spaces with us. So I just think I really appreciate council's effort to create more trees in particularly Collingwood, which is, I think, the ward of Yarra that is most lacking in trees. And I think that parks like this are absolutely critical to that mission. So I think we should really do this and create a space for kids, for animals, and for the human beings that need to see green for their nervous systems. Thank you, councillors.
Thank you, Andrew. Andrew, just stay there because you're actually the first for the next agenda item. So that's it for Bud Street. If you've just come for Bud Street, feel free to leave if you want to, but you're very welcome to stay. We're moving on to Matter Street, and Andrew, you're the first submitter for Matter Street, so if you'd just like to move on to that one, please.
Again, it won't surprise you that my points are relatively similar to my points before. I think in addition to the comparison between Collingwood and Fitzroy in terms of the green and the grey of the two suburbs, I note when I walk to work through Fitzroy, I work at the University of Melbourne, and it's always striking to me how the clever design of the streets of Fitzroy have meant that it's very quiet in terms of cars. It's a very peaceful suburb. It's very nice to walk through and to cycle through. And I don't think quite the same can be said for either the east or the west side of Collingwood divided by Wellington Street. So I think in addition to the points I made before about creating green spaces that are good for our nervous systems, good for walkers, good for kids, good for dogs, I think that a clever design of the streets such that there are fewer cars so that we can all feel safer on our bikes and on our feet is really a good thing for all of us to do in Collingwood. So yeah, that's my point.
Thank you, Andrew. Beverly Hurley, Matter Street, you've got 2 minutes. Thank you.
Again, not completely opposed, of course, to green space. I just question the signage. I question the way the information has been conveyed. I was left completely confused. I think it's been very ambiguous, this site. The line drawing was hard to decipher as it's got so little information on it. There were just a few scant lines. I was confused thinking it was the green space on the corner that's the overgrown block that was the Salvation Army community garden or something. It was fenced off, now overgrown. To me, that would seem the perfect spot for a green space not closing the road. I'm concerned about traffic. If it's not allowed to go down Mater Street, being forced down Hotham Street, and we know there's a childcare centre in Hotham Street. Another neighbour said to me, no, it's not the block on the corner, it's the block and the road. Another person said to me, I can't even understand the drawing. So I think there is a lot of ambiguity just regarding what the actual site is. But my largest concern is that until the Wellington Street bike lane proposal is actually sort of put to bed or it's been resolved, and I know that's been fairly contentious, I'm wondering why Mater Street, which seemed to form part of the bicycle lane proposals 1 and 2, it's going to align with that. And so to me this seems a little sort of covert. Oh, do we close Mater Street? Oh, that's convenient, that was part of the Wellington Street plan, let's proceed with that. I would like it, if there was a master plan, to be aware of the master plan and the Wellington Street bike lanes be resolved, And then if Maida Street
30 seconds.
is part of that, then okay, that gets addressed separately. But this feels a little bit like, let's chip away at it, let's close this street that was on the Wellington Street proposal, but as I said, hasn't come up yet for full resolution, and then sort of see what happens, because once it's closed, it's sort of closed. What I'd like to know is, what is the vacant block of land on the corner doing? Can that not be the green space? Why do we need to close a road to do that forces traffic past a childcare centre?
Thank you, Beverly. Jack Slater.
Hi, thanks again. I'll speak very quickly on this one. I'm a very local resident. I live about 50 metres from the proposed area. I use a car. I park my car on the street and access via Maida Street and neighbouring streets. I'm not concerned about the impact of access this will have on me or other car users in the area. I think there's an ample amount of east-west access, north-south access, whatever access you want. I think there's an ample amount of car parks. Very few of them are enforced, or there's no permit areas in the area at all. Speaking on the more positive side, this is a historically community site. My neighbour was a very strong user of the previous community garden that was there, and I think it would be great to see this restored. Noting that the council has already purchased that site, this gives us the opportunity to maximise that investment by sort of expanding the green space in that area. So, yeah, very strong supporter personally. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Joe Wilson.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors. My name's Joe Wilson. I've lived in Charlotte Street, Collingwood since 2009. I love the direction the council are going with proposing the new open spaces in Collingwood. I'm also speaking on behalf of many of my neighbours with young families who also love the idea of calming our neighbourhood through the Maida and Bud Street proposals. I think our area is screaming out for that, because compared to even to Fitzroy or North Fitzroy, we don't have the green spaces that we need. So on behalf of many of my friends I talk to, our walking groups, bike riding groups, that type of thing, we'd love the idea for both proposals to go ahead. Thanks for the chance to speak.
Thanks, Joe. John Yanulis. John, yeah, come to the front.
Mayor, I've already spoken. You actually called me up for Bud, but it's...
Yeah, but now you're also registered for Matter Street.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to speak for Matter Street.
That's all right.
Yeah, I've got you down here as registered for Bud, also for Matter, and also for Matter speaking on behalf of Thomas Shepherd. So you're actually down 3 times. So you've done the first one, now's your second one. It's you speaking for yourself on Matter.
Absolutely.
Thank you. 2 minutes.
I'll just quickly reiterate what I said before ad lib. I've been there many, many years. We do face a problem down that lane. Council has made an attempt to stop traffic running in that lane. However, it does possess a danger. 3 of my properties do have their front doors opening on there. I love the open space idea. I love the Wellington Street proposal. Just magnificent work by the council. I've studied those plans immensely. They're so well done. Bud Street certainly does need to happen, and certainly does Maida Street. I will use it, my family will use it, my friends will use it, my wife will use it, everyone I know will use it, my neighbours will use it. Those 700 cars traffic movements that do go through Maida, they certainly do have other options, Hotham being the main one, obviously. However, getting back to that lane, it is a very simple solution to put a bollard in there and eliminate the issues we had. Council may recall quite a few years ago in Richmond there was a very similar circumstance where there were 3 townhouses that did open up onto the lane. Their front doors did, and my doors do, as I said before, 60 centimetres to live traffic. And there was a death probably about 10, 15 years ago. It was on a current affair. However, that's not an issue. With 1 bollard, problem solved.
Thank you. Do you want to speak again on behalf of Thomas Shepherd? Have you got anything new to add?
No, nothing new to add.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Next person is Patrick O'Reilly. Welcome, Patrick.
Hello everyone. I'm a Collingwood resident who lives on Maida Street, about 10 metres from the proposed park. I just want to express my strong support for the council's decision to add much needed green space to our neighbourhood. Having spoken to many of my neighbours, there is overwhelming support for this park for people living on Maida and Charlotte Street. You know, in Collingwood, we have a real shortage of green spaces, and as a parent of a young child, I'm excited that we're going to have a new space to allow kids play in. I'd like to point out that there are a lot of families with young children in Collingwood, and we currently have one accessible park to use on Gold Street, and this is really only suitable for young kids and toddlers. So as our kids get older, it's really important that they have open areas to play in without having to cross the road at Alexandra Parade to get to Darling Gardens. I also think that prioritising parks over roads will cut down on the rat running and the traffic that's through traffic that goes through Collingwood. So I'm very supportive of the council's decision to close the road and turn the space into a park. So once again, just wanted to reiterate my support for the council's initiative to close Maida Street and create a park. And I'd also like to thank the council for prioritising the livability of our neighbourhood for local residents. This proposal, in addition to the changes to Wellington Street to make that street more livable for locals, are going to be great for our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Samuel Way. Sarah Wall. Welcome, Sarah.
Hi, Stephen. Sorry, Mayor. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. I'm a hearty, big, full-throated yes when it comes to the closure of Maida Street. I welcome the opportunity for the green space. As has been noted, that is hot as Hades, that little section of Maida Street. And again, when you cross over Maida Street, when it becomes Westgarth Street into Fitzroy, it's like entering a nirvana of a different world of greenery, lushness, birds, insects, and much more pleasant temperature too. So thank you for that. I'm very, very keen on the green aspect of it. I'm very keen on both the park on the side of the Salvation Army building. As every single one of you probably knows, I have been throaty in my displeasure about the look of that property for a very long time. I feel that it negatively affects our property values, and I think that this will be a good opportunity to do something about that. I would like to put two caveats in there, which I think is something that could be sorted out and make residents feel a lot more positive about the proposed changes. That is to promise us that on Maida Street, and I'm literally next door neighbour but one to what will be the park, is to say from the outset that you'll be changing our street to permit parking only. At the moment, it is 4-hour parking, and we get everybody coming from where they're going. If that is made permit parking with angled parking put on the south side of that street, that will go some way to alleviate the stress. I would also like to see the complete separation of the Wellington Street project from the Maida Street project, and I would also like to have no dilly-dallying whatsoever. You've got an opportunity to do it, just do it. No temporary park, just put the money towards doing what we want fairly soon to help the bird life, the insect life, the greenery, the temperature, and to give us a bit more green space in what is an incredibly neglected part of the council.
Thank you. Sydney Snedden. The last speaker on this is Vicky Dimitriadis. Okay, so that's it for Maida Street. Just to let you know, we've got the money in the draft budget for both of these projects. They'll both go to next week's council meeting, and if they're passed, it'll be, you know, it'll go ahead with no messing around. To go on to what Sarah just said, if it's not agreed by the councillors, well then it's a different matter. But whatever, if it is passed, it's in this budget. We've got the money put aside for the full implementation. Okay, we'll move right along to the last area for submissions, and that is 243-245 Gertrude Street, Fitzroy. The first person is Alex McFarlane. Second person, Andrew McLean. Joseph Gauchi Snedden. Andrew.
Thank you, councillors. I wanted to retract my submission in support of this project and just confess that I'd misunderstood the nature of the project. And in coming up here, just make a slight suggestion that it might be helpful to frame some of these proposals in a bit more contextual information, so that sort of confusion doesn't arise in future. Thank you, Mayor.
Very good point. Thank you, Andrew. Joseph Gauci-Snedden, speaking for himself at this stage.
I'm actually going to speak on behalf of a group of tenants. Do I need to explain the nature of that? Or?
Do, and I won't include that in your 2 minutes. And are you also speaking on behalf of Gail, your mum?
No,
or is she going to speak separately?
She's going to speak on behalf of herself.
No worries, Gail. You'll be after your son. Yes, go ahead. Just
So,
give us the context briefly,
yeah,
and then
I'm
your 2 minutes will start.
Speaking on behalf of the residents of number 72 Little Smith Street. Little Smith Street abuts the rear of 243 to 245 Gertrude Street. There's, I think, there's 6 residents, 6 property dwellings within a strata title area with a community space, and I've sought permission to speak on behalf of them.
Yep, permission granted. Your 2 minutes for this submission starts now.
Okay, my name is Joseph Gauci-Snedden, and I'm an architect, resident and business owner in the city of Yarra, and have lived here most of my life. I'm here to speak on behalf of the residents at number 72 Little Smith Street regarding the rear of 243 to 245 Gertrude Street. Our community is diverse, made up of new and old Yarra residents, owners, renters, share houses, casual and full-time employees and retirees. Each one of us is an active participant in the community, culture and economy of our neighbourhood day and night. We want to express our support for Yarra's ambition to grow and bolster the vibrant community, vibrant music and nightlife of Fitzroy and Collingwood for the enjoyment of people from all local government areas. We also believe that this should not be at the expense of the residents of the Yarra City Council. The subject laneway, the rear of Gertrude Street, abuts Little Smith Street, which is used by patrons after leaving nearby venues. This results in glass bottles being smashed, public intoxication and antisocial behaviour, noise levels continuing until 3 to 4 a.m, residents feeling unsafe accessing their own homes, disturbed sleep for families and long-term residents. If the laneway becomes associated directly with a venue, we are concerned these issues will intensify. What is currently a public access way could effectively become an unmanaged spill-out space with limited accountability once patrons leave the premises. So our key concerns are resident safety, particularly late at night, noise and amenity impacts on households, ongoing clean-up and property damage, precedent for privatising public infrastructure in a dense residential area. And we think that this moment in time and this decision provides an opportunity for Yarra Council to reclaim this public parcel of land and build better infrastructure to support both the existing and growing nightlife and local residents at the same time.
Joseph, your time is run out. Sorry.
Can I have one more sentence?
Yep, go ahead.
And we believe that a balanced solution is possible, one that supports businesses without compromising the safety and livability of our street.
Thank you, Joseph. Gail, Gauci-Snedden.
Thanks for having me. I lived for the first 3 years of my life in Richmond. I moved back to Yarra in 1988 and have lived here since. I owned a musical instrument store for 28 years in Collingwood and Fitzroy and continue to participate in the music, culture and community to this day. I now live in Little Smith Street and am really impacted by the overflow of people from venues. I want to stay living here, but have been growing in concern about my ability to do so, and this discussion will, sorry, I didn't finish that sentence. Basically, I just think that the piece of land behind Gertrude Street, behind the shops in Gertrude Street and around the corner into Smith Street should not be sold to one person. I agree that there has got to be a better way.
Thank you, Gail.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next person is John Grant. Okay, we'll move on to Mary Lou Scully. Welcome, Mary Lou.
Thank you. My name is Mary Lou Scully. I was born in Fitzroy. My great-grandparents were also residents of Fitzroy since the 1800s. In 1996, I purchased a property on Gertrude Street, 5 paces from the laneway in question. So for 30 years, I have been affected by the rubbish bins. The rubbish bins were reported to council around 1999 by me. I have sent thousands of pictures to the City of Yarra, and I have made hundreds of reports regarding the effect that the rubbish bins have on me in my property, which has residential rates being paid for upstairs and commercial rates being paid for downstairs. That's two lots of rates with no amenity. My amenity is affected by the health. So the road under the bins are never cleaned. The bins themselves, according to the bylaws, should be cleaned on a regular basis in a situation where the water does not go down into the gutters, into the Yarra. This never happens. Those bins are never cleaned. They're full of rats. They're overflowing with rubbish. The safety of all the people who live on that street or traverse that street are affected by the bins using the footpath, and they actually overhang the footpath. So one side of the footpath, one footpath is this wide, the other footpath is this wide. The bins stop people from using the footpath, so you have to walk down the road.
30 seconds.
The road is used for offloading of business, goods to businesses. When that road is blocked, there is the footpath blocked and the road blocked, so the pedestrians are in danger. So I'm talking about safety, and then I'm talking about amenity. So the amenity that I am worthy of as a payer of rates include not having smells, not having rats, and not having rubbish. I have not opened the window. Sorry, I'll just finish the sentence, Stephen. Sorry. I have not opened the windows of the residents or the business for 30 years. It's just not on. The laneway needs to accommodate the bins. Thank you.
No problem. Michael Neal. Welcome, Michael.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. Obviously, we're here to talk about the laneway behind the Fitzroy Beer Garden in particular. There's three areas of concern from where I'm sitting. One is the utilisation of public space, the denial of access to surrounding businesses, and the impact on residents and the community. If we look at the utilisation of public space, to my understanding, the Fitzroy Beer Garden is currently using the public lane for its own benefit, both operationally and financially. This arrangement, to my knowledge, was never formally approved by council, nor communicated to the local residents. I, like many others, strongly oppose the hotel having sole access to this lane. Its intended purpose is clear, to store and collect rubbish bins for the surrounding businesses. The public space should remain public. My second point is the denial of access to surrounding businesses. Local businesses should have the ability to store their bins in a laneway. Right now, that's not possible. As a result, bins are being placed on public footpaths, forcing business owners to carry rubbish through busy streets, Smith Street and Gertrude, before dumping it in Little Smith Street. This is not only inconvenient, but also unsafe for pedestrians as people navigate footpaths carrying boxes and bags of waste, which I've personally observed. Also, from the previous speaker, I've also seen the same degree of rubbish, syringes, glass, rats running up and down Smith Street. It is not acceptable. The third point was the impact on residents and the community. The consequences are clear. Bins on footpaths and streets attract illegal dumping and antisocial behaviour. We see that every night, particularly on Thursday, Friday and Saturday evenings. Little Smith Street is starting to look neglected, hardly the image we want for an area known for its vibrant culture and tourism. We've even seen police presence recently due to these issues. If we want to make the area safer and more attractive...
Michael, you've gone out, your time has run out.
1 minute. Sorry, one sentence, please.
One sentence, yeah.
The first step is simple. Remove the bins from the street, return them to the laneway where it was intended to store and collect rubbish bins.
Thank you, Michael. Paul Burke. Margaret Burke. Welcome.
Thank you. I've actually got a few photos.
Yeah, feel free to, just starting with Mecca, if you just pass them around, please. Oh, it's all right. Yeah, thank you. We'll do that.
Yeah. So I purchased a shop next door to the beer garden some 5 years ago with the expectation I could use the roads to access the rear of the shop. That hasn't happened. I guess my position is that I oppose the selling of the roads to the owners and believe the road should be open, public and accessible. I think they could provide a great community amenity, open green space, provide a laneway culture, act as a service road, access for emergency vehicles, a general deterrence to those that do encroach on public land, and also help to preserve the heritage area. So if I can't access the rear of my shop, my only other access is through the front door in Gertrude Street, which is entirely impossible for me to replace the roof, expand the rear of the building or doing any of the major works that I plan to do when I purchase the building. So you can see at the front of the shop there are high voltage electrical wires. In my submission, I attached an email from a roofer who said that he needed rear access in order to replace the roof.
30 seconds.
Also, the council report talks about selling the roads to the owners. Those roads are registered easements. However, because the roads are on the public road register, those adjoining landowners, of which I am one, are unable to exercise their private rights to access and have the roads made open.
Thank you. You've run out of time. Can you just maybe one last sentence to wrap it up?
So so losing, if the easements are extinguished, that will be highly significant to the property value of all the adjoining landowners. We've been unable to exercise our private rights, and having the road on the public road register has really protected. Yeah, sorry, thank you.
Thank you so much. That's the last speaker for tonight. I want to thank everybody who's come here tonight to speak. I also want to thank all those people who've sent in written submissions. If you're not aware, for Bud Street we had 77 written submissions. 57 of them were in favour of the proposal, 16 were against, and 4 were unsure. For Matter Street we had 56 written submissions. 47 were in favour of the proposal, 9 were opposed, and none of them were unsure. And finally, for 243, 245 Gertrude Street, we had 80 submissions, 80, of which 17 supported the closure, the sale of the discontinuance of the lane, 17, 62 opposed, and 1 was unsure. So to my colleagues here, to my fellow councillors, the motion before you, which I'm going to ask you to, actually, do you got a question?
If it's okay, we've got a section to ask questions to officers, and I just had one minor one while we had
Absolutely, Councillor Wade, go ahead.
Fadi, I just wanted, I think we've had it alerted by quite a few people that I appreciate that road discontinuance is quite a legalistic process, but that maybe there was a bit of context lacking for people. Is that something that we could consider in future road discontinuances, is just putting a bit more context around these proposals for what they're for, so that when people are making submissions, like maybe a map, but also what it's intended for? Because these ones, like the first 2, are quite different to the third, for example.
Through you, Mayor, we're continuously we keep reviewing our processes, and whatever there are improvements we do. This one, with these 2 processes, I think we checked the plans. The plans were very accurate. And we don't do them. They're done by a surveyor, so we make sure that they're accurate. I do concede the last one is a complex matter. So it's not, we could try to simplify it, but we try to include as much information as we can. But it is a bit of a complex matter because there are a number of moving pieces, but we take that definitely on board.
Follow-up question, Councillor Wade?
Just one follow-up. even for the first two, I think the consultation went out without actually saying this is for open space or this is for a park, which I think, is that the sort of thing that we could possibly include in future?
We can definitely look into it, but the public notice process is a heavily regulated process and we have to follow a very stringent process. So we'll have to get some advice to see what we can add and include there. But if there's a possibility, of course. Thank you, officers. Appreciate that. So, councillors, we've got a recommendation from the officers in front of us that we note all the written submissions made during the public notice period. We acknowledge all the speakers who have spoken in support of the written submissions here tonight, and we thank the community for the submissions and active participation in the road discontinuance process. And before we vote on that, just to remind everybody, next week, council meeting, Matter and Bud will be voted on. The Gertrude Street, the rear of Gertrude Street one, will be at a later date. I'll make sure everybody, plus for and against, is well informed of that. So, councillors, can I get a mover for that motion, please? Councillor Mackenzie, seconded Councillor Wade. Councillor Mackenzie, did you want to say anything? No? Councillor Wade?
I do, just to say thank you, because I appreciate that both of these matters were for people in Northern Yarra, not coming across Hoddle Street, across Victoria Street is something that we don't necessarily do every day, so I appreciate you coming out of your way to come and speak to us. It is helpful to hear from people in person, and I think you all also spoke very well and conveyed your points really succinctly in 2 minutes, which doesn't always happen, that people are able to get their point of view across in such a succinct way. So thank you all for doing that. Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Any other councillor? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's passed unanimously. Thanks all for coming. I'll close the meeting at 7:17.